The Emperor has foreseen a new threat rising against him. The Podwans Podcast.
Greetings and salutations, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Podwans Podcast. How's everyone doing tonight?
Do you notice that you were frozen?
That was the best part. You're dead.
You paused perfectly when you were going.
Good. Mouth open. Happier and with your mouth open always.
That's what she said. Anyway, Chase, how you been?
I feel like shit.
Ago. Well, yeah, you had done a 340-mile bike ride.
Yes, it was very painful. It was very worth it. It was very fun. I was riding through the swamps of Florida, literally, on a mountain bike.
I'm surprised that you didn't get attacked by an alligator.
I have videos.
You saw someone get eaten by an alligator?
I saw a possum get eaten by an alligator.
That's
I went up to an alligator.
Insane, to be honest
almost
with you.
Pet him. I almost pet the alligator. My goal next year is to pet the alligator for sure. I got to hang out with a cottonmouth, a little baby cottonmouth. That was cool. I have mysterious bug bites on my ankles that are insanely itchy right now.
A cottonmouth?
Yeah, the ones that fuck you up real bad. Do you not know what a cottonmouth is?
No, I've heard of getting
it's a snake. It's a snake. It's a pit viper in the southeast. It's like brown and black striped snake, and it has a white puffy mouth. And so when it is getting ready to bite, it does this, and so it's all white.
The cotton comes in. Okay, got it.
Yeah.
The two things were not making sense there, and I was just like, "Wow, here we go. We're getting canceled." I don't know.
You're getting canceled. Anyways, we're here to talk about not snakes and alligators as much as I would love to. We're here to talk about the war in the stars and all the news and all the new stuff that's been announced and is out. We've got to talk about Andor. We've got to talk about the new Bad Batch book. We've got to talk about the new Legacy of Vader comic. And since we are talking about Andor, we do have to talk to the most Andor of Andor people out there. We have to talk to someone who hasn't been on the podcast, hasn't really been on TikTok until a couple weeks ago. Beth at Mara.j.skywalker.
Hi, everyone.
Hi.
Oh, no. Right back at you guys. Or what do the kids do these days? What?
I don't know. They do it like this.
What is
Come on, you boomers. You boomers.
I know this one, but there's I can't do it.
It's like this. It's like, oh my God. Like, no, like I have younger like coworkers, and she did it, and I was like, what the fuck? How do you do that?
Luke, you should know as
you're really old. And I was like, wow. Okay, all right.
With the blood thing.
Oh my God. Is that going to get us banned? Wait, I do remember that from back in the day.
But Luke,
all right.
You should know how to do finger hearts being a TikTok NPC streamer.
Yeah. Thank you for the hearts. Thank you for the roses.
Okay, wait. I'm gone for 1 week, and you become an NPC streamer.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
You're gone for 1 week.
Time 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, Luke is an NPC streamer. Apparently, we hate Star Wars now, according to multiple commenters.
Oh, geez.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, duh.
Yeah, our rankings weren't very good. Apparently, co-host Charlie Johnson called Hereth at like the middle of the night and
at
was
like 1 in the morning out of nowhere.
Reaming him about the ranking. But we're not in the business of being nice. Like, these are our rankings. Like it, shut up, or not. Don't really matter.
We put Andor in S tier. That's all that really matters.
We did. I as much as begrudgingly. Oh, by the way, I have a bone to pick with Wayseekers. So SW Austin, putting Obi-Wan Kenobi at 9, that's shameful.
Whoa!
That's shameful. That's
What did
shameful.
he put above?
Putting Book
Did
of
he put,
Boba
like,
Fett
Mando?
over Obi-Wan?
Get
No.
out! Get out! No.
That's what I said.
I could make a case for that.
No, we don't want to
I
hear
would-
your case. No,
Yeah.
Beth, as my not legal counsel, I think we should bar this
Non-legal.
conversation till later.
Well, the funny thing about
insane.
Wayseekers is I actually funny enough reached out to Austin today because they did a tier list and then they're doing something with Andor. I was like, stop being on the same wavelength. It's like a joke. So I did like the Spider-Man pointing meme of like, because it's like we're on the same wavelength at this point.
No, yeah. But obviously we have. I don't know.
I've been outside of civilization until yesterday. So tell me what the news is.
So the news is that obviously a big game is happening on Sunday. That of which
Fortnite.
my team is the guys from Fortnite are gonna play Fortnite.
Are you telling me that Travis Kelce from Fortnite is making his debut?
Yeah.
It's like they're LARPing, right? They're just LARPing.
Yeah. They
Yeah.
put on their suits of armor and they put on they throw the foam balls.
Yeah, it's like cosplay.
They wear
just like
their
cosplay.
magical gilded helmets.
Yeah, we'll go with that. Usually around Super Bowl time is a pretty good time to drop trailers. I know a lot of companies will spend money on projects that are coming out. There hasn't been really anything Star Wars Super Bowl wise in quite some time.
I actually looked into it because I was actually curious like when the last couple Super Bowl trailers were.
Wasn't it Force Awakens?
So the last like notable instance that you can find was Solo, but like the last one truly was Mandalorian season 3 because the season came out in March. So they did a Super Bowl promo TV spot.
Oh, they
That makes
did.
sense.
Okay.
That makes sense.
I thought it was one of the sequel movies.
Nope, it was Mando.
Really?
I think the real question is, do we actually get the announcement of Reputation Taylor's version at the Super Bowl?
I don't know, man.
It's Taylor keeps winning with the Chiefs.
This isn't Gridiron Guys. We're not here to talk football, even though that's all I've wanted to talk about for the last week and a half. You know, but we're here to talk about Andor and possible trailer rumors. Do you want to start somewhere else, Hereth?
No, let's do Andor, and then we can go back to the news. Like, obviously, we could just flip the order around. Like, I think this is the more pressing, interesting topic because, like, obviously, we can come back to Bad Batch, but there's not really much to say about that. More of an Andor, personally. Here's my hot take. I don't think it's going to happen. Lucasfilm has a really weird, repetitive pattern with marketing where it's like, we have to market the show literally the month before, and it's like, why? You have most of like the VFX ready right now. Just pushed it 2 months earlier. You have this giant media event. Push it with everything else. Star Wars will survive.
See, I think this is where Disney comes in because they have to market the shit out of that new Captain America movie because it literally comes out the next week.
Mhm.
And from a movie standpoint, releasing a movie in January and February isn't a very good sign most of the time. So Marvel
Dune Part 2 came out in like February, right?
I thought it came out in March.
Captain America Winter
I thought it
Soldier
was
also came
like-
out in February as well, which is also another Marvel movie, but it like which
They
is why
don't
they're one of the better ones.
historically they don't do very well.
Deadpool, Winter Soldier.
Okay,
Sure.
completely just throw
Black
mine
Panther.
out of the water.
There's like 3 that released in February right there.
But like
Dune 2
before
was
then, it was
March 1st. So
March 1st.
Oh, there you go.
I mean, they have to really they really have to push it here because there hasn't really. I mean, besides the one trailer that was dropped when like New Year's Eve or whatever, like that's been. Like they've released another trailer, which obviously marketing for Disney just seems really weird. And Beth, maybe you can kind of shed some light. Like, why are companies not jumping at the opportunity to do these big Super Bowl ads? I know there are a lot, but
they're really expensive, and it's also like a very specific demographic, at least from what I understand on the corporate side. But granted, I just feel like Disney, Lucasfilm, and Marvel, I just feel like it's a completely separate entity whenever you're dealing with that kind of stuff. But I feel like Captain America promos did pick up. Like Anthony Mackie was at Midtown Comics like yesterday, I think.
oh,
So it's definitely like, so that's definitely picked up. So that, I feel like that's definitely 100% something that they'll be focusing on. But yeah, I mean, all the divisions are just completely different they all have different marketing departments and different strategies. But again, I don't speak as an expert as to the company structure.
yeah. I mean, it's you were on the boots on the ground when opening out. You were doing some lawyering stuff. For sure.
I know some things about corporate structure, but yeah, that's a whole nother entity. Plus, like they just had their. I was hoping because Disney had their Q1 earnings call on the 5th, which was not yesterday. No, it was yesterday. Sorry, it's been a long week. Which was yesterday, and I was hoping that they'd mention something about it during that call, but they did not. So that was very disappointing.
Interesting. But
I feel like also not just Disney, but Netflix, Hulu, HBO, they have an unbelievable amount of data at this point that probably shows that like the return on investment for showing a 30-second trailer for a show that is like, yes, there is going to be Star Wars and football crossover, but we're looking at a very small sliver in that Venn diagram.
that's fair.
And also it's just like, they probably say it's like, it's not worth it to run this many ads, this much marketing this far out from the show. It's just the biggest push is like, I mean, if you think about all these press releases, press events for movies and shows or video games, the biggest traction is always the streaming now or playable now or available now or in theaters tomorrow, something, along those lines. Those are usually the biggest marketing pushes that get the most traction. So it's like, if the public consciousness is just so brain rotted at this point where there's no attention anymore, it probably does make sense to say, if we tell you that Andor is coming out in 2 months, you're going to forget about it in a week. Versus we tell you that it's going to be airing next week, you're probably going to tune in next week.
That's also fair, but I also think, going back to Beth's point, like it is expensive. That's why they release things on YouTube, because they don't have to pay any advertising or any other fee. They just get return on investment by views, and that a Star Wars show is going to do numbers. It just does.
It's a built-in audience.
Star Wars, that's how Star Wars is. Before we get more into it, Beth, have you watched Skeleton Crew?
I have. I really liked it. I thought it was such a great. I mean, but granted, I loved Acolyte too, but I thought Skeleton Crew was so fun, and it just had the ethos of kind of the Star Wars genre, but then also it with kind of the Goonies feel. I loved it. It was unlike anything that we've had before, and I just thought it was really a refreshing take, especially just after some of the craziness in the fandom too. It was nice to see something that everyone really resonated with on different levels. So
yeah, that's that.
The kids were great too.
Yes,
the kids they were so good, because it's kind of hit and miss, I feel, sometimes when you're casting that young, but they were all phenomenal. So
yeah, it looks like they were all kind of seasoned vets for sure. But getting back to Andor, that comes out in April. I think it's probably going to come out. I think they're going to move up the begin date for Celebration Japan.
100% they're going to do
Yeah,
so
I don't see how they
that
don't
one's
do
right on the
it.
back.
Yeah.
So do we think
that close,
so do we think that they're going to be pushing Andor with March Madness then? Because that's another big sporting tool that they like. Some companies like to drop commercials for and stuff.
There's two
for that
factors
as
at
well.
play outside of. I mean, there's Celebration was the main one you mentioned. Obviously, they always tend to do this with like Anaheim. It was Kenobi. In London, it was the penultimate episode of Mandalorian. They showed it 5 days early to people that got into like the studio showcase. So I think Andor being pushed early so they don't deal with spoilers is kind of forgiven, because I think Andor is more tend to spoiler heavy than I think a Mando episode is. So I think they'll push it ahead just for that case. Also, the fact that HBO is dropping Last of Us in the same week, I think they're going to try to like get ahead of it and try to get the first like jump at it so they get ahead of HBO, because they're going to be kind of rivaling for viewership at the same time, because they have kind of very similar demographics.
Yeah, I mean that's a good point. It's going to be interesting to see Andor and then also Pedro kind of duke it out that first couple of weeks. It's a good time to think about that, because they're both really, really close. But I think it'll drop I think a full-fledged trailer will probably drop in March.
Yeah.
If there isn't one for the Super Bowl, which I'm kind of with you, Hereth, I don't think there will be, because I feel like we would have heard that by now, or at least heard some rumblings of it. Because let's just be real here, nothing can be kept a secret anymore. I think we would have heard it by now. But like, it makes sense to have it closer to when the show comes out, because it's like, why are you going to waste all of your momentum when they're still 2 months out? You know what I mean? So that makes a whole lot of sense.
Yeah, I think that, well, I love and adore Star Wars, Andor, and I have no hesitancy now saying that Andor is my favorite thing of Star Wars. Like of all the movies and everything, like it is my favorite. I do think that show did struggle for a lot of people. Like, I know people who aren't super into Star Wars that watched the first 2 episodes and gave up. They were like, yeah, it felt very slow. I didn't really know where it was going. I didn't, like a lot of people, like, I didn't really care for Rogue One. So I'm curious from an outside perspective, like what Lucasfilm is going to do to win over people, to get them to go back to Andor season 1, to go back to Rogue One, to get ready for season 2. Like, I'm very curious about that, because it did okay, like viewership wise, like ratings wise, it did phenomenally. Like, I think the people who watched it all the way through, like, almost, universally, like, loved or at least appreciated it. But I do think there was that, like, it's very different. It's very, very different from everything else in Star Wars. Not a single lightsaber in sight. Like, it's so, like, I'm curious how this marketing push will go.
Well, and also think about kind of the political scale that we're in right now. To be honest, think about that as well, because the Andor is the political thriller. It is literally, if you had to choose a Star Wars, this is it. This is the definition of Star Wars. Besides maybe the Clone Wars, I guess you could say, but like, this is like true espionage, like political thriller, and with everything that's going on in, at least in the United States, where most
it's like right now.
Yeah, it feels scary for a lot of folks. And that's really real. And it'll be interesting to see what that brings into it, because obviously Marva's speech was very, very much pointed during that time where things were not great. And it's still kind of not great. But anyway, I think it'll be interesting to see what the political climate has to say about season 2.
I don't have any concerns that Disney and Lucasfilm will produce politically poignant media like Andor, like it's just, are they going to market it that way? Like, because they are a huge corporation, they are a business, they care more about their money than their politics. I think they have shown, as much as people like to criticize it, and I think it's good people criticize it, like they have shown that they are willing to put certain like political ideologies in the media they have been producing. Andor being a good example. I think the decisions they've made with some of their live action adaptations have been a good example. Some of their animated stuff they've been putting out also falls into those lines. But like, as far as are you going to alienate a certain demographic in your marketing? Like, that feels like a financial, shot in the foot to me.
Yeah.
I think one of the ways that you make it a little bit more, so I think definitely playing sadly upon the current political landscape of the time, if you will. I think that you can do that in a way that doesn't alienate your audience in different ways. And I think that goes back to taking, like, as far as looking at Marva's speech, that's more politically charged. But if you take Nemec's manifesto, that's something that it appeals on like a humanitarian level. It's about obviously oppression and banding together, and that can mean something different to everyone, without being a very overt, I mean, obviously we understand and have analyzed the meaning behind it. But I think if you choose a piece of Andor like that to focus on, I think that's kind of how you would be able to market it effectively amidst the current political climate.
Yeah, there's going to be action in this show. Like, it's still going to be Star Wars. We're going to get gunfights. We're going to get explosions. Like, there are things you can put in a sizzle reel that'll make the show enticing and exciting. You can have, I'm sure there will be a heist of some sort going on at some point. And I think you can make a trailer and market it, something that, and obviously we've seen it with, I believe it was Empire. Like, they had Krennic on the cover, like he's coming back. And it's, you can put him in a trailer and it's like, you don't have to say, hey, Krennic is representing this political figure in the real world, but you just have to put him on the screen and be like, you remember this guy? Remember how he got blown up by the Death Star?
Speaking of which, the Death Star, how much do you think we will see of it for Andor season 2? None at all?
We know it's a pretty,
a little bit?
Well, I don't think we'll see it. We know it's a pretty big plot point, though, because this isn't spoilers, it's in the Empire article, but Krennic, the Death Star is running way behind as far as production time, and it's running over budget, and that's like extremely stressful for Krennic. So we know it will amorphously play a big role.
Which
also
also
I don't
means
know if we'll see it. I hope we don't.
But that also means it's probably gonna be the final arc, because that is around Rebel season 4, because that's the whole Tarkin scene and then Thrawn treason with the whole Tarkin pulls Thrawn out from from the Ghost crew to go help with the Death Star. That's around season 4 Rebels, so that would actually kind of make sense as the final arc.
Yeah, I think
well, it ends with Cassian getting on the ship to go to the Rings of Kafrene, so it's it's completely circular. So it'll be interesting to see how the two intersect.
Yeah, I'm very interested to see how they pull everything off to get how does he get there? How does he get to the rings? But yeah, for the Death Star, I think it's like we got it. We got our post-credits Death Star. I think the Death Star will be a logistical plot point more than anything. Like, it will be, the logistics of it will be talked about it, but it's one of those things, like, you just need to have conversations about it. You don't need to, maybe they have Krennic or Vader showing up, flying into the construction, zone in space, right? But like, I agree with you, Beth. Like, I don't think it's needed. I think it's just you can have the discussions about it.
Did you?
I think
say...
if anything, it'll just be like data. It'll just be like here's like a schematic, and it'll be Krennic being frustrated and be like, I think it's definitely gonna be, the type. I could be.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah, I forgot that plot point.
Yeah, I'm curious to see
Yeah.
how the arcs are going to be laid out, because I'm assuming the first arc's going to be like something like immediately after the finale, because they kind of left the finale open in a way where it's like you can immediately kind of just pick up on another storyline with Luthen and Andor. I'm assuming the third arc is going to be Cassian and Mon Mothma on the run on Coruscant, probably.
Coruscant, or he is. I liked M's thoughts of obviously from what we saw in the still for the Disney Plus thing. He's looking a little bougie as fuck.
Mm-hmm.
And M made a good point. Like, they set up Val and Cassian as like a cover story, so that he might be in Chandrilla, which is still very much like Alderaan at this point, playing face to the Empire. Like, they're still part of the Empire, but they're not in open rebellion quite yet. So that'll be interesting. So that could be something. I mean, or see, the problem is that the timing with when she leaves the Senate, where are we going to be within that arc? Because what is it? 6 episodes or 12 episodes?
12. It's like season. It's
Okay.
like season 1, so it's like the full 3.
So it's
3,
every three episodes is an arc, and that's 5 years, right? Or is it?
No, it's 1 year. It's
1 year.
So it's
1
every
year.
arc.
Okay.
Yeah.
When we have 4 total arcs, so we'll be at Rogue One by the end.
Because she leaves and goes into open rebellion in season 3.
Yeah.
And two BBY.
Okay, so yeah, season 3 of Rebels. So are we going to see Cassian be part of the, hey, she's given that speech and now we gotta get the fuck out of here part of that?
I think from the stills we've seen, yes. I think there's some very interesting. I don't know how much you guys have seen, but there are some interesting pictures of Cassian and Mon Mothma running.
Yeah, because like I forget, like there's a picture of like him holding her hand and like running like in a city street, if I remember.
Well, they did. Didn't they give out
Yeah.
stills during the studio showcase 2 years ago?
Not stills. We got like a whole sizzle reel in London.
Well, but didn't they? I thought they had like, or was
I don't
it during
think
the
that
Andor
was part
panel?
of it though.
Andor season 2 got a
the Andor
trailer
panels-
celebration in London.
Yeah, we got a trailer, like a full-on trailer.
Yeah, it was like
time.
it was really
20
short,
seconds.
but
Yeah.
Like
yeah. There was a lot of like interior shots, but the Mon Mothma and Cassian stuff, I don't think that's been like officially released as footage. I just remember seeing a bunch of like filming stuff. They're like, oh, filming in Spain, and it's showing all of them, and I'm like,
Oh
but,
yeah, that's
actually,
right.
there was merch, like randomly Andor season 2 merch, if you will, or some of the like print on demand shirts dropped this week on Amazon, and that image of Mon Mothma running with Cassian is actually on like the background of one of them. Like you can see it.
Right.
So that's
I was saying, Christopher in chat says he wants to see Mon's husband meet his end, and I agree.
Yeah, I don't.
Who else do we think doesn't make it out of Andor, though?
Petra.
Luthen's gone. Luthen is dying.
Luthen is dying. Yeah.
I think either Vel or Cinta. I don't think makes it out.
I think it's Val. I think it's Val who meets the end.
I want more Cinta because like we kind of were left.
I agree.
Like, she's alone without Vel, so I want more of her story. I want more of their story, but specifically more with Cinta's point of view.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think Cyril doesn't make it out.
I think So from the way that Tony Gilroy described Dedra's and Cyril's arc in season 2, because he talked about it a little bit during Celebration London, and this is kind of what I remember. He remember talking about like how Dedra is kind of like fully going into the Empire and influence, and like is like almost like fully buying into this like patriotic view of the Empire, while Cyril's kind of going the opposite direction. So I would not be surprised if Cyril becomes a defector early on in the season. Because there's a shot.
Yeah, because Cyril doesn't.
I don't know, in the trailer. I forget if this has been released publicly, but there's a shot in the trailer with like him in a sewer, not in his usual Imperial outfit, talking to somebody, and it looks like he's in disguise. So would not be surprised if the rebellion picks him up.
Do we get an entire
100% agreed.
Yeah, but I want an entire arc of just Cyril and his mom talking at the dinner table.
Oh Jesus!
Just 3 straight episodes.
Poor Cyril.
Can we all just agree that she is the worst?
What?
The mom is the worst.
I love Cyril's mom.
I feel like it's one of the most realistic things where you're like,
Yes.
oh yeah,
that's fair.
I get fired, and then I have a parent who's like, what are you doing with your life? And it's like, oh God, I feel like everybody has been in that situation in some way, shape, or form. And it's those moments that make you relate to these characters so well that you're like, this isn't like, it is Star Wars, but it's also, the genre is flipped in Andor. It's more sci-fi because of that.
Well, like, I know we talked about, like, obviously with Luke being on the podcast and Atlantis being a factor, like Callus, but like I honestly have always kind of seen for Andor an arc where it's like Cassian is kind of the fish out of water, having to deal with a former Imperial agent having to work side by side with him. I always, obviously with Atlantis, I always thought that would be Callus, but I also think it would be interesting if him and Cyril got teamed up on a mission and they have to kind of politically figure out how they're going to work together because of like Cyril's and Cassian's connection.
Cyril's the first fulcrum.
That
timeline-wise would match up.
Yeah.
Well, it's so interesting because, like, for Cyril, like Cassian is his whole world. Like that is, and it's like that meme where, you know, I'm sure you guys have seen where he's like, "You ruined my life," and Cassian's like, "I don't even know who you are." Like,
yeah.
But it's like, you know, Cassian is Cyril's whole life, and that is, he is a tool for justice, if you will, or for what, you know, he views as right and wrong. But as far as the greater scheme of what the Empire views right and wrong, like Cyril's ideology and his whole system is completely outside of that, and it's all Andor centric, if you will. So I would love, in my brain, I think it'd be amazing if they were like, "Hey Cyril, we need you to go undercover and pretend to defect to the rebellion," but then he actually does, and then he's like, "Oh wait, actually I am going to defect to the rebellion because this ideologically lines up with what I'm actually more about, as opposed to like oppression and evil. It's more about what's morally right or wrong."
Speaking of that, and just because I always have to drop it in, I'm rereading the Alphabet Squadron, rereading the Alphabet Squadron trilogy.
Yes!
I'm on Victory's Price, and I'm at the point where Irka is back with spoilers. Is talking. I'll just say is talking to Soren Keys again, and they're talking about defecting, and they're talking about like it is not. Like one thing about Rebels, like with Wedge and them defecting, it was just like, oh, let's just go, let's just leave.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, it's like it is insanely difficult, and it's not even difficult of like the logistics of it. It's just like you form relationships with these people, like you start to realize that yes, like we're on the wrong side, but like I have a crush on someone that I'm stationed with.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, and it's like, I would love for them what Alexander Freed did. And I'm so excited that his new book with Mon Mothma is coming out right before Andor. It's like, I would love to see, you know, whether that's Dedra, whether that's Cyril, whether it's a new character, like I would love to see that explored of just someone who is like, they want to get to the rebellion, but there's just so many of these little tiny facets of their life that are keeping them from defecting. And kind of what Resistance did with Tam in the First Order, of just kind of like, you don't have to paint, you don't have to paint the Empire as the good guys to understand why someone would join or stay.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
I really hope they get more into that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So-
that's really similar to Lost Stars too. Like it's
Yes.
it's a very similar portrayal, which I think everybody should read Lost Stars. Like
Yes.
Agreed.
Sienna and Soren Keyes are very similar characters as far as their ideology goes, but wildly different as far as like their hearts, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yes, yeah.
Sienna is a good person at heart. Soren is a monster, like through and through a monster. But you are like, I understand why he's doing, like, he doesn't even like the Empire. He just cares about the people. But he's also like, it's just like, I care about these horrible people, and I don't want the people who committed atrocities and war crimes and genocide, I don't want them to have any repercussions for that because I like them so much. And it's like,
That's just wild. No, but
those are the stories those are the fascinating parts of the stories though, because it's like that's where the good storytelling is.
Yes.
Yes,
So,
Lost Stars is so good.
Chase brought up this guy. Do we think that him or Palpatine A are mentioned, or B make a cameo?
The Emperor will be mentioned.
Agreed.
Sure.
Oh yeah,
I think
Emperor
Palpatine
is such an overwhelming asset of the. I mean, he is the Empire.
Yeah.
Vader. I think it's possible. Do
really
we
hope he's
see
not.
Vader? Maybe not.
I wouldn't mind. Obviously, this would be kind of retreading what Bad Batch did, but like, I wouldn't mind them using Palpatine in that way with the Senate and like Mon Mothma's making this giant push, finally like shifting the tides, and at the last second, Palpatine flips something and then flips it all the way back. Again, political commentary.
I think,
and then that's what sparks Mon Mothma to be like, "Fuck this, I'm out."
I think it's more likely we'll either hear or see from Palpatine than see or hear from Vader, to be honest. I think it's more likely for Ian McDermott to come in and do that, because he still has to do appearances from time to time, even though I can't remember which book it was. They talk about how he was less and less involved as the years went by with the Empire. So maybe, because remember in Bad Batch, he shows up and he gives his speech and then fucks off. So it's like, how involved is he really with day-to-day activity? You know what I mean?
You also got to think in a way of like how Tony Gilroy is as a writer. I think Palpatine is more of a Tony Gilroy character than Vader. You can definitely fit him in an Andor setting more than Vader. Vader would be like a weird fish out of water in that type of writing.
So I think the legacy characters are a little bit easier to say which ones will be in and which ones won't. I think Tarkin, very high probability. I don't
because
think
they won't comment on it. That means yes, he's gonna like he'll be a presence either way. But
he'll be a huge presence. I think Wolf Yularen again. I think they're not done with him for sure. Obviously with the Dedra stuff and being involved and being part of the ISB, being the head of the ISB, I think he's very likely to be in it. I don't think you need to shoehorn Vader. It just doesn't make sense.
I think if you look at Rogue One, like we got the scene of Vader dealing with the bureaucratic side of the Empire. You get that when Krennic is called to Mustafar, and Vader confronts him about the lack of progress on the Death Star. We have that scene. And then you brought up the Bad Batch. We have the Emperor showing up to show that he is still making the calls within the Empire. So we have that scene as well. I think I think for either of them to show up in Andor, for it to make sense, I think we would just be repeating scenes we've already seen.
I agree. I think we need to give new characters either within the Empire or within the Rebellion a little bit more shine. We don't need to, and this is the thing about Skeleton Crew. No cameos.
Yeah.
No cameos.
Thank God.
and it worked out really well. So maybe they're thinking towards, hey, let's try to build but here's the problem with Cassian. We know where his end leads to. So maybe that is where you can lean into more of those situation by situation. Hey, we can use Hera in this situation. We can use.
I wouldn't be. I think we mentioned Hera in the past. Hera would be the one that would be like, that one kind of makes sense because she is very Tony Gilroy coded. Plus, she's mentioned a lot in Rogue One, so kind of like that kind of.
And she's
more likely.
She's a big part of the rebellion at this point. During it, she's not in like the circle of leadership that we see during Rogue One, but she's a general. She's a high-ranking officer in the Rebel Alliance hierarchy.
I know it's not super likely, but what I would honestly enjoy more, and you could use something like Andor as a platform to do this, but I think honestly Ahsoka would be the better platform. This is where I think we're finally at a point in Star Wars where we can start bringing characters from books and comics into visual media. Like, I do think there is an opportunity for characters from Lost Stars to show up. There's opportunities for characters from Alphabet Squadron to show up, from Twilight Company, from Battlefront, from the Aftermath series. I think we start having these opportunities to introduce these characters into live action, because I think if we look at Star Wars since Rise of Skywalker, like the Mandalorian has had its fair share of cameos, so has the Book of Boba Fett, and Ahsoka did as well. And we've slowly started bringing stuff from the expanded universe in. Like Ahsoka had the E-Wings. You've had characters that get brought in. We had Luthen's Emporium that is just littered with the expanded universe inside of it.
Yep.
And I do think that we've gone from new characters to established characters to new timelines. That this year is the year of opportunity to say, like, hey, we have so many characters and we have so many events, we have so many things that have happened that are big parts of the Star Wars story that just aren't being reflected on screen in one way, shape, or form. And so, is this a moment where we get Rey Sloane? Is this a moment where
that's a good fucking point. It's a very good point.
And I think it could be done. I feel like it could be done very similar to, and it doesn't even have to be overt, but something like how Rogue One treated Hera and the Ghost Crew. It's even things like that, just to start to weave them into the fabric of like the visual universe. I feel like it's just like the little seeds.
The thing with that is she would still be Commander Sloane at this point, correct? If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, but like this is, I mean, we're at the point where if you look at stuff like they showed us the Death Star being built, and I think this is also the opportunity to show things like the Emperor's Messenger showing up, and stuff like that, where it's just like at some point we need to start sprinkling in how the sequels tie into all of this as well. We need to tie, and we got the first pieces of the First Order in Mando season 3, and in
Bad Batch.
Yeah, and we know that the plan all along started during the Clone Wars. Like, we know that through books, through comics, through games, through the TV shows. Like, this was all part of the plan the whole time. And I think it's like at any point in time, is when we're going from Revenge of the Sith to The Force Awakens, we can start building this story up again.
And I do find it interesting that you mentioned the Mando season 3 scene, because I think that does kind of tee up Ray Stallone in the visual media, whether it's in Andor or in one of these Mando shows, because you see Amadeus Hux in there in that hologram sequence. I would not be surprised because they already kind of teed it up.
And also I think it would be a nice little touch for Ray Sloan to show up. She's shown up in other media. She showed up in Squadrons. She's during that time period. It is what during that time period? Where is she at this point? Well, Mando season 3, Jakku's already happened. Yeah. She's a Grand Admiral. Jakku has already happened, if I'm not mistaken.
Correct.
Is that correct?
It's 4 years after Jakku.
Yeah, and Ben's already born at this point.
Correct. Ben's conceived around then. So yeah.
Yeah, and he was born during the Battle of Jakku. So I think it would make more sense for her to be seen in maybe Ahsoka season 2 than it would be for Andor, because she's not high up. Well, she's also not at the point of where, because we also have to remember if Hux, or not Hux, but Krennic is in this, she's not high enough to know about any of the Death Star.
But I don't think that, and not that it's going to be Ray Sloan. Like, you have so many Imperial officers like Shakar, and like you could even just have things like the ships that we've heard of. Like, I know, like I care the most about the ships, but like starting to drop these crumbs, like, hey, the Ravager or the Pursuer is docking at so it's so and so, or the Chimera. The Chimera is not around yet in Andor, but like other vessels that there are vessels like the Tantive 4 and the Pursuer and the Devastator that make it past Andor, that were part of like before A New Hope. And so it would be interesting to start to see these tie-ins of just like, this is all connected, but it doesn't have to be like, how does Luke Skywalker meet Cassian and
right? Like,
no.
And like the back of your theory, like we kind of do have confirmation of that in the official Disney Plus trailer, because there's a shot of Cassian walking on Yavin 4 with all the ships taking off.
Well, and here's the other thing: the Chimera, if you play it right, could be. I mean, Thrawn could be a possibility here, especially towards the end of that arc. At least the last maybe 3 episodes, maybe even the episodes, so it'd be what, 8, 9, 10. No. 7, 8, 9, and then 10, 11, 12 are 2 years, and he's involved with the Rebel storyline, and that's 3 years, right?
Yeah, it's because season 4 is like would be that final arc. It's like almost concurrent with Rogue One, because I think the finale of Rebels is around Rogue One.
I think I struggle most with Star Wars is that timeline. Like, I have the timeline book like next to me. Well, it's just like you look at it and you're like, that doesn't seem right.
I don't see them adapting a scene like word for word, but the scene that to me that screams most Andor is the first scene in Thrawn Treason, when Thrawn, Palpatine, Tarkin are all at the table and they're all talking about the Death Star, and Krennic and Thrawn are getting into it over what's going to get the funding. I could see that being an Andor. That's very Tony Gilroy coded.
So here's how I feel about.
I'm just excited for middle manager Tarkin. That's what I'm excited for. Or not Tarkin, sorry, Krennic. I'm excited for upper management Tarkin and then middle manager Krennic. Sorry, continue, Chase.
Here's how I feel about Andor, and this is what I love about Andor. Is that I think that Andor has, even in just its first season, I think it has perfected how to connect to the story at large without running beside it. Like the things that happen in Andor are directly connected to the Skywalker saga. Like, Cassian's building the Death Star. He's building the tool of his own demise. And the fight for the Empire, Nemik's manifesto is a huge aspect of what's going to transpire within the rebellion. That's what we see in the original trilogy. And I think that, like I said, I think that they're just going to this is a show that will give you crumbs. Like you're not going to get Thrawn showing up. You're not going to get like Biggs Darklighter showing up just to have him in the show. As cool as a fan, as cool as that would be, I don't think that that's the show that Tony Gilroy wants to make. I don't think that's the story that he wants to tell. I think he wants to acknowledge 100% that Ray Sloan is in the Empire right now. That they're building they're probably building the messenger as we speak, right before episode 4. That Thrawn is indeed working his way into the Empire right now to speak. I don't think there's an issue. I don't think Tony Gilroy has a problem acknowledging that in his media, but I don't think he wants that to be focused. He wants to tell his story, and his story is what he is writing, not what other people have written. And I think that is what made Andor so special in the first place. Was the cameo you got was already just a random character from Rogue One. That was it.
Yeah. No. You are right there. I mean, I think the most obvious one is Galen Erso.
Agreed. That one's already kind of Rogue One heavy, and it's like you kind of can just like be like
because you're so much closer to Rogue One, you have to have him. I think it's even easy. I think another slam dunk one is Bodhi. I think that end of that last arc is going to be Bodhi making his way to Jeddah.
What's Felicity Jones been up to recently?
Well, yeah, that's true. That's I mean,
because isn't Andor season 1 around the time when Jin and Saw like defect from each other? Because I didn't add
no
timeline wise.
She would be Maya Halleck.
Way younger.
Yeah. She's like 10 or 13 years old when she gets ditched.
Yeah.
She's 16 when she's ditched.
Or 16.
After the Flechette.
Yep.
The Flechette massacre. I forget the planet.
And then she's 22 in Rogue One, and you remind us 5 years.
Like
Andor season 1.
When Andor ends, I think the timeline is she's going as Maya Halleck at this point. Yeah. She's not Jyn Erso right now. Is how I'm pretty sure that timeline wraps up. So again, another thing, like it would be cool to hear, someone like Luthen say, like, we've had leads on someone named Maya Halleck. Like that.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
No, which would
exactly
fit perfectly into where they would find her in Rogue One.
Yeah. Has anyone read Rebel Rising?
I need to.
Yes.
I have,
it's so good.
I need to.
It's so good. It's like one of the most underrated, because I think it's marketed as like one of the YA books. It's one of the most underrated.
YA, not even close.
No, and it's phenomenal. Like
it is. So Rebel Rising, like if we take like books about spaceships out of it, right? Rebel Rising and Rise of the Red Blade have been like my 2 favorite novels. Like I think Beth is right. Like you need to read Lost Stars. I think it's the perfect introduction to Star Wars literature. I distinctly remember, I think I talked about it like a year or 2 ago on the show. When I was buying Rising Storm, and I was buying it at a bookshop in Brooklyn, and the person that was working there was like, "Oh, like, do you read Star Wars books a lot?" And I was like, "Yeah, I do." And she's like, "How do you feel about Star Wars books?" And I was like, "Well, I'm a big fan of Star Wars." And she's like, "Do you ever feel like they're holding back?" And I was like, "Every single book I read, I feel like they're holding back." I was like, when you read like 3 Star Wars books in a row, and then you go read some other fucking science fiction, science fantasy, vampire novel, horror novel, it's just like, it's a whole other world. And Rebel Rising to me was the closest to a real fucking book. because it deals with super serious issues. It doesn't skirt around them. What we're talking about is when Saw and Jin split ways is because of the Flechette mission, where they go to an Imperial banquet ball, basically, and they are turning away sentient species that have zero humanoid features. Like they're basically like the jellyfish people. And they're being turned away from this banquet because they're allowing like Zabrix and stuff in there, but like because you're so disgusting to the Empire, you're not even allowed in.
Mm-hmm.
And then Saw and his partisans come in with like these weapons that literally shred people apart and just open fire on everyone inside the building. And that's what splits Jin and Saw apart. Because he leaves her on the planet. And it's like it's very like she's like the way it's written is it's like Jin's watching it and she's watching the rain of sparks and like fluids of people
like
coming down.
That's oh my god.
It's horrible.
Yeah.
And it's like this is something you would expect, like the way that one of the scenes of like The Expanse is when like someone gets shot with a rail cannon through the head. And it was like the way it's written is like very graphic, very intense. It's unsettling, and you do not get that in Star Wars literature. But in Rebel Rising, they really stepped outside of the box and was just like, this is a very serious thing. And then you understand what when Saw is justifying what he did. It's just like the only people that were allowed into this building were the people who deserved it. And it's like there were no innocent people in the building, not a single one.
And that is what we like to call ethical reasoning.
It's something that I think a lot of Star Wars fans struggle with because of the Jedi and the Sith, because it's fucking blue versus red. They struggle with morally gray stories. They struggle with like the amount of people I've heard that call Saw a villain. I'm just like, you just lost the plot.
Oh my god!
Like you do not understand Star Wars.
Yeah, Bad Batch season 2 really didn't help that narrative.
Oh my god! Don't get me started on Bad Batch
my
2 and
God.
Saw. People that are like stupidly going after Saw for that is so dumb. It's so dumb because he's so right. You kill Tarkin, you kill most of the Empire. It's that simple.
Yeah.
It's tough when you try and put like, let's put a morally gray character in an animated series. I think that's something that's very difficult because people inherently are closed off to any sort of
reality,
non-binary thinking, if you will. Yeah.
Animation
and I feel like that's where.
Go ahead.
Oh no, go on. No, go for it.
I was thinking, I feel animation will always feel in close proximity to youthfulness in a way. Like it doesn't matter how, like you can look at anime like Kill la Kill and Chainsaw Man and like Berserk. It's still a cartoon to a lot of people. It's not real. And so when you have these important stories like Saw Gerrera and the Bad Batch and Clone Wars, like it's not going to resonate the same way it does when it's Forrest Whitaker on screen or when it's words in a book. Like it's just not going to hit the same way for a large amount of people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
100% agreed. Yeah.
No, yeah, absolutely. And so I guess we can go back to the news. I honestly,
talking about
talking about Bad Batch, like the Bad Batch Sanctuary is coming out this year,
and it's an interesting plot. You know what I mean? It's got a lot of it's taking place shortly after season 2, shortly after the tsunami hits. And they have to kind of pick up the pieces. So it's interesting to see what we're kind of going to be looking at.
I love that all the Bad Batch girlies are saying that this is secretly just going to be a Tech and Fee romance novel.
I would be okay with Tech getting some. My man's is is lonely, so I gets it. But that's coming down the pipeline. I mean, we got the Acolyte stuff, Acolyte books that are also coming out. So that'll be kind of interesting. I'd be remiss if I didn't ask Beth what her thoughts were on seeing our financial Dubro Damask Holdings boy in Acolyte.
Well, I was really excited because of the implications that has in regards to asset management in the Star Wars universe.
Yeah, absolutely. He was buying Bitcoin as well.
I mean,
it's Plague Coin. Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh shit! Yes,
I love it.
Yes, Plague Coin. Plague Coin.
I mean, the closest that we get though, if they were, because in canon, I don't think it's actually been canonized yet, if you will, that Damask Holdings and Plagueis were connected, other than the fact it financed the plasma reserves under Naboo. But I don't think it's been like officially connected like it has in Legend. I think they're just like, oh, Damask Holdings is out there. So I'm sad. I still want my finance bro. I mean, Palpatine is the first finance bro, like because of that.
That is
so.
true. That is true. That is true.
Yeah.
What do we think?
Canon.
What do we think of the Hound playing Baylan Skoll? We are very behind on this. No, I've heard. I've seen. I thought the Hollywood Reporter and Deadline both confirmed that. I don't hate
confirmed.
It isn't. Is it confirmed? It's confirmed, right?
Yeah.
I think it is confirmed. Yeah.
Okay, that's what I was thinking.
I think
he's very like I stopped Game of Thrones after season 4.
Because you're so vowed with that.
Because of timing.
It got boring. I'm sorry. I have not read. I will never read those books, and it just got boring to me.
Wow.
Like, I'm sorry. Like, the best character died, and I was like, oh, there's 4 more seasons of this without him. Then what am I watching?
You didn't miss much.
Watching Jon Snow be told he knows nothing for 4 more seasons.
I do think it's interesting that he is going to pick up the mantle because he was very, very close with Ray Stevenson. They were actually really good friends. So kind of seeing him, it'll be a little tough with the beard, with the white beard and the hair, how they're going to do that.
I don't think so. I think that as long as, and I have all the confidence in the world that he will pick up the role with respect and admiration for what Ray Stevenson did. I think he's a very talented actor. And I think it's the same thing that you see in tons of other shows where people are just recast. Like, it happens.
I also think with like the way that like they did like Hera and like Sabine, like I think they could easily just make a Baylan wig pretty quickly. And like
that I don't think that. I think it's just let him be the best Baylan he can be. I think trying to make him Ray Stevenson is a mistake.
And I think the storyline actually positions itself well too, because any sort of nuances of the character that he kind of wants to take in a different direction can be like, oh well, it's because he's now hanging out with the Mortis gods,
Yeah, he went insane.
Definitely, or maybe more sane. Who knows? But it's like a perfect spot too, where he can definitely take that character where he wants to.
Sticking with the Ahsoka theme.
Oh no, we don't know where this is going.
Oh no,
you do.
What's happening?
Ewan McGregor. Apparently, there are rumors that Ewan could come back and reprise his role. Which, if you don't remember, I don't think the Ahsoka reactions were ever released
because of the strikes.
But because of the strikes, which I had given this long rant of. During the finale, we see the father, the statue of the Father and the Son,
and the Holy Spirit.
Amen. we see those characters, and my mind went to, okay, the only people that are going to be able to help Ahsoka get out of this are Anakin, who we have already seen, and Obi-Wan, because those three were the only three that remember the Mortis arc at all. Like, and they are very connected with that storyline, so it wouldn't surprise me if Ewan, if we don't get an Obi-Wan season 2, which Beth and I hope we don't get, because that was,
Please just leave it. Just leave it.
in my opinion, it should be left alone. That was a perfect ending. But what are our thoughts on Ewan possibly coming back in either flashbacks or Force Ghost?
I'm done with them.
Yeah, just let them. It's gonna turn into a Mark Hamill thing where you're just like, please, God, like, I know you love the character, like, we love that you love the characters and want to be there, but at some point it's like you gotta.
This is the thing that, like, I know we've all seen it on TikTok, but I've dealt with it in TikTok lives and in the comment section. It's just like the type of person that is like, when they say what they want from Star Wars next is like essentially season 8 of the Clone Wars.
Yeah.
I'm just like, when is it enough? Like, I know I'm not the biggest Clone Wars person.
Yeah.
But like, at some point, like, you have to move on. Like, I think it's important to realize that for like me, Star Wars is not the clone troopers, it's the stormtroopers. And
yeah,
like, I enjoy the clones, I enjoy the Clone Wars, I enjoy the prequels, but like, there's so much more to Star Wars than that era. And just going back to that well over and over and over again, it's just tiring.
See, I don't think that there will be flashbacks. I think he'll be more based.
Even if it's like World Between Worlds thing, I'm just like,
I wouldn't mind it personally. Like, obviously, a lot of like OT and Gen X and older millennials view Alec Guinness as Obi-Wan, but a lot of younger fans view Ewan, and Ewan's already kind of the age Alec was during A New Hope, so it kind of perfectly makes sense.
I think it would be, just because I do want to see Ewan back in more things, I would like it, but I can kind of see Chase's point. Let the dead horse die. You know what I mean? We've already beat it enough. But
you have 6 movies, 7 seasons, and a whole show dedicated to the character. Like,
yeah,
and 50 fucking books.
Like, but I feel like Dave will give that opportunity because he wants to give those prequel actors a chance to shine. Because here's another thing. Natalie Portman is reportedly,
I would rather see Natalie Portman because,
and I agree.
But I also think that rumor got literally shut down as soon as it came out. Like, everyone was like, not this. The Natalie Portman one was like, that. Everyone's like, that one's not happening. Like, everyone like.
I would rather see Natalie Portman. I'd take Liam Neeson. Like, even though he was at the end of Kenobi, like, I'd rather see Natalie. I'd rather see the, like, Hayden and Ewan were not the only people that were in the prequels. Like, like, I would want to see Natalie Portman. I'd want to see Ian McDermott. I'd want to see like Liam Neeson. I'd want to see Keira Knightley. Like, these are people I'd rather see.
Oh God, could we please get Sabe in there? Oh, see, that'd be amazing.
That would be
like, it's one of those things that, like, I understand that it would technically make sense in the Ahsoka show to have Ewan McGregor show up again. I'm not against Ewan McGregor or Hayden Christensen coming back, like, in the same way that I love that Ahmed Best has been coming back. Like, I think it's great to have these characters, but at the same time, like, you have Hera, Sabine, Baylan, and Shin, and Ezra now, that, like, these new characters, these characters that have been around for a decade instead of 2 decades, like deserve their time to shine too. Like they deserve their Clone Wars treatment. And I think that's more important for if we're gonna use characters over and over again. I think that's more important than just going back to Hayden and Ewan over and over again. And again, it's nothing against Hayden or Ewan or Obi-Wan and Anakin. I love Obi-Wan a lot. Like been in many heated discussions as to why Obi-Wan's the most important character in Star Wars. But like at the same time, it's just like I feel like I've made the joke before, but it's like at some point we're gonna know like every single time that Anakin went to the bathroom.
Literally.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And like
that's fair.
Also, not to like derail this further
also
into a good discussion. I'm also curious how they're gonna tie in the whole like Ezra, Hera, and Thrawn story with the Balin, Shin, Ahsoka, and Sabine, because they're on like completely ends of the galaxy. So it's like I'm wondering how they're gonna kind of go back and forth. Like I know the first
the
season
crab
kind of
people had super hyperspace technology. Duh.
Yeah, because the first season felt like very much like Fellowship of the Ring. So it's like I feel like this is gonna be kind of like Two Towers a little bit, where it's like
Two Towers. Yeah, Two Towers. Yeah, I think that.
You know what Lord of the Rings doesn't have, Luke? Crab people.
Yeah.
No. They don't. That's true. That's true. But no, that's kind of the news.
Yeah.
I didn't read Legacy of Vader.
I need to as well. I've been busy at school.
It looks pretty cool. That's what I will say.
Comics are a difficult one.
I have not read it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kylo
has
a comic.
So basically, it's just picking up after Last Jedi, and then him. It's basically gonna lead up to Rise. What happens in Rise of Skywalker?
I know. I need to read it myself. Like I know some people got mad because there's apparently a storyline where Kylo feels like he needs to kill a Jedi, and apparently he kills an Order 66 survivor. It's like been out there forever, but it's not like the main focus. Like I heard it's like an issue thing, and I remember people getting mad about that, being like, "Oh my god!"
People get like, mad about the weirdest shit, man.
And it's like, "Oh my god, 20,000 Jedi Knights and 50 of them survive. What a concept! Whoa!" One of them could have just gone into hiding and just like hide somewhere for like an entire war. What a concept! Whoa!
I mean, Cal Kestis is right there. Also, do we think that Cal is going to show up or have his own show? Because apparently that was also another report that has happened over the last couple of months.
I think you will hear at Celebration Japan.
I think so too. Yeah. I think that's probably really likely.
I still stand on the hill that we won't get anything Cal Kestis live action until all 3 Jedi games are done.
And they confirmed that they started working on that game? I felt like it was greenlit after.
They haven't officially confirmed. However, New York Comic Con, I was hanging out with Sawyer and Brooke, and I was also hanging out with a Respawn dev, and they kind of were hinting at it. So yes, I would say it's very much in production.
Oh, interesting. Well.
Yeah.
Pretty packed
up. I mean, as far as I was thinking about Star Wars media that's like that has been announced that hasn't come out this year as far as like what's left after Andor, and I think like we have to be getting a Tales of something, right?
Right.
Yeah, that's
Right now we just have Andor, Ahsoka, and Mando and Grogu, or like the three.
Yeah, Mandalorian and Grogu. Yep.
And then a bunch of movies that are. Will they come out? Well, I don't know. Flip a coin.
The things that have. I'm gonna say it's the things that have posters.
Yes, and Visions. Like I know we're getting another season of Visions.
Yeah, Visions season 3.
I feel like we have to be getting a. Yeah, we have to be getting a Tales soon, right? That's the only thing I can think of.
Get a Tales at some point. I think Tales of the Bounty Hunters is probably going to be the most likely.
I know.
Did you read those books, the old school ones, Chase?
No.
The Tales of the Legends ones. Oh God, they're so good.
No, I didn't.
Was this the one where freaking Boba Fett gets the Force connection with the Sarlacc pit? Or is that one of the other comics?
Yes,
that was a comic.
Or was it? But no, but IG-88, it's like a Descartes, like I think therefore I am. They're insane. These like short stories are insane in the best way possible. Like you would love it. I feel like you would love it. I feel like everybody should read it.
There was
Tales of Bounty Hunter,
there
Tales of
was
Jabba's Palace.
there was I distinctly remember, and this was like I'm gonna say high school era for me, where I would like check Star Wars books out of the library, or I'd buy them at like our local book, like before Barnes and Nobles. I don't know if you guys had Borders bookstores.
Yep.
Like we would go to Border. I would go to Borders and I would get those books, and it was just one of those things that I got so fed up of, like Luke Skywalker. And I always say, like, Luke Skywalker did a backflip over a stormtrooper and stabbed him 100,000 times. And so I stepped away from like books that were about like Luke, Han, and Leia. And I started reading like the other books, and that's when like the Old Republic stuff started coming out as well. So that's what I really, really like started diving into, because I just got so tired of Luke, Han, and Leia, unfortunately, in the books.
Well, also outside like Tales of the Bounty Hunter, I remember after Tales of the Empire came out, I was like, well, the obvious contrast would be in this current political climate with Andor and Ahsoka, Tales of the Rebellion. That would be the obvious next.
Yeah, but
step.
I feel like you have Rebels
cool.
season. I feel like you've already had that with Rebels.
But like, imagine like a Bail arc and like you could or like Adult Omega could be an arc in Tales of Rebellion. Like you could do a lot of different things.
I feel like Andor kind of is Tales of the Rebellion, because it's about the different factions of the rebellion who believe in different, obviously there's an ideological spectrum of rebellion, from revolution to more of like an anarchist view, like Saul, to, rebellion, which is more in Mon Mothma, that area. But I feel like that's kind of what Andor is, because it's all about finding the middle and them coming together. But I would love, I am never adverse to more Tales of the Rebellion.
Yeah, and you can't use Omega in live action because she's obviously going to be the star of the Rogue Squadron movie. So, confirmed by me.
Spoilers.
And only me.
But I think we've covered pretty much every single topic.
Yeah, I think so.
Chase, take us out.
Sure. Well, I mean, thank you, Beth, for joining us and talking about Andor. It's always a pleasure to talk Andor and rebellion-centric topics in Star Wars with you. But it's good to have you back on our feeds, back on the social medias. I know that it is a hellscape of no return, it feels. But give us your plug. Where can we find you on the internet? What are you doing? What are you up to?
Oh God. I guess now I'm back talking about Star Wars and politics is now my current popping off again. At mar.j.skywalker at TikTok, mar.j.skywalkers at Instagram, multiples. And I think I'm also on Blue Sky, but I haven't uploaded anything. So
there.
I'm really bad at plugging myself. I'm like, it's there. I have my username.
I posted a couple things on Blue Sky, and since I've been in Georgia, I haven't even touched it. I haven't opened it. But Luke, where can we find you on the internet?
You can find me on the internet at Jedi Master Eggs, and you can follow us at the Pod Ones on all social medias. I think next Friday will be the beginning of our once a month talk.
Okay.
Kind of like we bring people in from the community and we just have a night where we stream for a couple of hours on a Friday night, and we just shoot the shit. We play a video game. We do something fun. I think that might be a good opportunity. If you guys want to be a part of that, please join the Discord server to be alerted on when that is happening and who will be a part of that. But yeah, and also, if you guys can't tell, go Chiefs. We're in the Super Bowl. It's gonna be 3-peat. Hopefully.
I love Taylor Swift so much.
I have too many bets going on. I have too many things in the pot. So
I mean, Luke, you know who will be I'll be rooting for the Chiefs, just so I can have that little that still hold
That
over
only
you.
little dig that
that
you
little
could do.
only thing just to hold.
But
that.
anyway, Hereth.
Yes. Where can you find me on social media? I mean, outside of just only on this podcast, I guess you could find me on Instagram when I occasionally post my stories. And then Threads and Blue Sky is a thing I have. I don't use it, but it's a thing. And yeah, you can find me here primarily on the podcast.
Amazing. Well, you could also find me
Yay.
on TikTok, TikTok, YouTube, Twitch, and Blue Sky at Forward Into the Black. I think Blue Sky with its character limit is FWD Into the Black. Talking about Star Wars, Star Citizen, other video games that I like, and telling people that just because a woman is in a video game doesn't mean it's bad. It's only if it's
community
ugly.
sometimes.
That's when it's bad.
Damn.
No, but thank you guys for joining me. Thank you, Beth, for
Thank you
here.
guys. I'm so
No,
excited. I'm so excited to get to chat with you guys.
It is always a treat to talk to you. I hope to have you back when our Lord and Savior Cassian is back every week. But
So
I
excited.
think that'll do it. I don't have control of this podcast since I'm not on my computer. I'm at my parents' house, so someone has to end it for me, and I'm just gonna keep on talking until you do it.
All right, and that's gonna be it. Till next time.
All
May
right.
the force be with you.
Luke looks like a
Always.
big poopy pig.
Cassian Andor.